Imagine working your whole life, saving every penny and building a college fund with the promise that it will secure your future. Then, one day, you find out that the money you've sacrificed everything for has disappeared. Not just gone, but spent on your cousin's new house. That's exactly what happened to me. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. You wouldn't believe it until you hear the whole story. I never saw it coming. My parents, who I trusted with everything, took my entire $80,000 college fund and handed it to my cousin without a second thought. And they didn't even have the decency to tell me about it. It wasn't until I overheard them talking about buying Catherine, my cousin, a house, that I realized something was wrong. I felt sick. How could my parents do this to me? I had been planning my entire future around this money. This was supposed to be the one thing I had that no one could take away. But now, it was gone. I was devastated, confused, and hurt. This wasn't just about the money, it was about trust. As I stood there, frozen in place, the questions kept racing through my mind. Why hadn't they told me? Did they think I wouldn't care? Catherine was my cousin, sure, but she already had everything handed to her. And now she was getting a house, something that should have been mine, something that was supposed to help me pay for school. My dreams of becoming a doctor, my hope for a future beyond this small town, all of it felt so fragile. I confronted my parents. At first, they tried to brush me off. "It's temporary," my mum said. "We'll replace it. Don't make a scene." But I was past that point. "What do you mean temporary? You can't just take my money and give it to someone else." I felt my voice rise, and my anger grew with every word. They kept talking around the issue, throwing out weak excuses, but nothing could make sense of what they'd done. I didn't understand. How could they not see how wrong this was? The money was for my future, not for Catherine's house. But they didn't get it. To them, it seemed like nothing more than a small sacrifice. But to me, it was everything. That's when I decided I couldn't let it go. I had to find out the truth, and I wasn't going to do it alone. I stormed out of the house, heading straight to the hospital where my grandmother, Miriam, was recovering from surgery. If anyone could help me understand why this happened, it was her. Little did I know, that one visit would change everything. When I told her about what had happened, she didn't say a word. She just picked up the phone. "Let's see if they still call themselves family," she said. And that was just the beginning. What did my grandmother do? What was her plan? I had no idea, but I was about to find out. I had no idea what was about to unfold when Grandma Miriam picked up the phone. I stood there in her hospital room, my mind racing, trying to figure out what she was planning. Was she going to confront my parents? Call in some sort of family favour? I honestly didn't know what to expect, but I knew that whatever happened, it was going to change everything. Grandma Miriam was a woman of few words, but when she spoke, people listened. And right now, I was listening closely, hoping she had a way out of this mess. "Grandma, what are you doing?" I asked, barely able to contain my curiosity and worry. She looked at me, her eyes full of something I couldn't quite place. "Don't worry, child. I've got this. Just trust me." As Miriam spoke into the phone, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of hope. She was always the glue that held our family together, even when things were falling apart. But this situation? This was different. There was a tension in the air that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about betrayal, family secrets, and who really mattered in this twisted dynamic. I thought about my parents, David, 47, and Helen, 45. For as long as I could remember, they'd always put family first. Or at least, that's what they'd led me to believe. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. They claimed to be doing this for Catherine, but I knew my cousin didn't need a house. She had a good job and a stable life. It wasn't like she was struggling. She was always the one everyone doted on, always the one getting the special treatment. I never questioned it before, but now, seeing how far they'd gone for her, it felt like they had chosen her over me. The one who had worked hard for years, saving for her future. And what did I get in return? Nothing. As I stood there, watching Grandma Miriam's conversation unfold, I realised that the real issue wasn't just the $80,000 that had vanished into thin air. The real problem was that no one had ever truly considered my future. No one had ever made me feel like I mattered as much as Catherine did. And that realisation stung more than anything else. I wasn't sure how much time had passed before Miriam hung up the phone. Her face was hard to read, but there was something in her eyes, something fierce. "We'll see if they still call themselves family," she said. And in that moment, I knew things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. What had Miriam just set in motion? Was it too late to fix things, or was this going to tear our family apart forever? Miriam turned to me, her expression serious. "Get ready, Sarah. Your parents won't be the same after this." The next morning, I woke up to a storm of unanswered questions. What had Grandma Miriam done with that phone call? And why did I feel this sense of dread hanging over me? I had no idea what I was about to walk into when I went back home, but I knew one thing: nothing would be the same again. My phone rang, and my heart skipped a beat. It was Catherine, my cousin, calling me. I was taken aback. Why would she be reaching out to me, of all people, after everything that had happened? "Sarah, you better explain yourself," Catherine's voice crackled through the phone. "Grandma's been calling everyone. Do you know what she's doing?" I froze. Had Miriam already told the family about my parents' betrayal? Was this some sort of retaliation? I didn't even get a chance to respond before Catherine was firing off questions. "Why did you tell Grandma? I was just getting started with the house deal, and now everything's on hold." Her words were sharp, like daggers aimed right at me. I tried to keep my calm, but I could feel my anger building. "I didn't do anything wrong, Catherine. My parents took my money to buy you a house, and I had the right to know why," I nearly shouted into the phone. Catherine scoffed. "You're overreacting. They're just helping out family. What's the big deal?" It was like talking to a wall. She couldn't see it. She never did. For her, it was just another handout, something that was always expected. She didn't understand that for me, this wasn't just about the money. It was about years of hard work, of sacrifice, and the belief that my family cared enough to help me build my future. But I was clearly wrong about that. As I hung up, the weight of the situation hit me again. I hadn't just lost money, I had lost trust. And now it seemed like my whole family was on the verge of unravelling. Later that day, my parents finally sat me down. They didn't seem angry, but the tension in the room was palpable. My mum and dad exchanged glances before my mum spoke up. "We know this is a lot to take in, Sarah," she began, her voice softer than usual. "But your grandma, she made things complicated. We've decided to give you the money back. Eventually. Eventually? I couldn't help but scoff, feeling the sting of their words. You're telling me I have to wait for what's rightfully mine? My dad cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. We don't have it right now, but we'll figure something out. The way they were talking didn't feel like an apology. It felt like a last-ditch attempt to smooth things over. But nothing could smooth over the mess they had created. Before I could respond, the phone rang again. This time, it was Grandma Miriam. Her voice was calm, but I could tell something major was happening. Sarah, I need to tell you what's going on, she said, her tone serious. Things are about to get messy. I sat in the living room, feeling the heavy silence between my parents and me. My dad had just promised that they would figure things out, but deep down, I knew their words meant nothing. They had already crossed a line by taking my future into their hands without asking. What could they possibly do to make it right now? As I stared at the phone in my lap, it rang again. This time, it was Grandma Miriam. I took a deep breath before picking up. Her voice on the other end was calm, but there was an undeniable weight behind it. Sarah, listen carefully, she said, her voice steady. I've just spoken to someone who can change all of this. We're not done yet. A chill ran down my spine. Who had she spoken to? What was she planning? Grandma didn't waste time explaining. She immediately dove into the details. I reached out to Uncle Frank, your mother's brother. He's got some legal pull, and he's not too happy about how your parents handled this. He's going to have a word with them. It's time for some consequences. I was stunned. My uncle was a no-nonsense type. He had money, power, and influence in the family. If he was involved, things would definitely not stay quiet. I turned to look at my parents. My mom and dad, who had been acting so calm and composed earlier, now seemed uneasy. They were suddenly on edge. I could tell they hadn't expected this turn of events. You've made your choice, Grandma's voice came through the phone again. And now, the family will have to decide who's really in the right here. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about me anymore. Grandma wasn't just putting my parents in their place. She was creating a rift in the entire family. The whole dynamic was about to change. The following days were filled with tension. My parents tried to smooth things over, but every time they spoke, it felt like their words were just attempts to placate me. I couldn't ignore the damage that had been done. Even Catherine, who had always been the golden child, seemed less confident. And then, one evening, everything came to a head. Grandma Miriam called me again. It's time for the family to face the music. Frank's already spoken to your parents. It's not going to be pretty, but the truth always comes out. I knew this was it. The fallout was coming. The question was, how would everyone react? As I hung up the phone, my mum and dad came into the living room. We need to talk, they said, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut. What was coming next? Would my family ever be the same? The moment had come. I could feel the weight of everything finally coming to a head. My parents had been doing their best to keep things calm, but the truth was out there now. My grandmother's call to Uncle Frank had set off a chain of events no one could stop. The truth came pouring out during a family meeting. Uncle Frank, the one person who could command attention in this family, laid it all on the table. He called my parents out on their actions. His words were sharp and unforgiving. Taking Sarah's college fund for Catherine is not just a mistake, it's a betrayal, he said. The room fell silent, the gravity of his words hitting everyone like a ton of bricks. My parents sat there, silent. They didn't try to argue, didn't make excuses. They simply looked guilty, and for the first time, I could see they understood how much they had hurt me. Hearing the truth laid bare, I felt a wave of emotions. Part of me wanted to scream, to let out every ounce of anger and pain that had been building up over the last few weeks. But another part of me felt relief. Finally, someone, Uncle Frank of all people, had said the words I couldn't. He had called it for what it was, a betrayal. I had always looked up to my parents. They had promised me that my education, my future, would be their top priority. To have them throw that away for someone else, someone who didn't need it as badly as I did, hurt more than I could express. But now, knowing that someone else saw that too, made it easier to breathe. As the meeting went on, my parents apologized. They promised to work out a way to pay me back, to rebuild what they had taken from me. They admitted they had messed up and acknowledged that they had hurt me deeply. But there was still something about their apology that felt incomplete. It didn't erase the months of stress, the sleepless nights, or the feeling of being betrayed by the ones I trusted most. What followed wasn't just about getting my money back. It was about what came after. The damage done, the relationships altered. The family was divided. Some sided with me, others with my parents, but what was clear was that the trust was broken. My parents had to do more than just say sorry. They had to prove it. Catherine, too, faced consequences. Her house deal was officially off the table, and although she didn't lose anything personally, she had to face the reality that her actions had led to this rift in the family. She called me to apologize, but the conversation felt hollow. There was no real understanding on her end, just a vague recognition that things had gone too far. As for me, I knew I would move forward, even if the family I knew was fractured. I decided to keep my focus on my dreams, on the future I could still build on my own. The money would eventually come, but more importantly, I realized that I was in control of my own story. My situation wasn't ideal, but it was mine. I wasn't going to let my family's mistakes dictate my future any longer. The last thing my parents told me was that they were going to start setting aside the money to replace my fund, and while it would take time, it was a step in the right direction. But as I stood in the living room, looking at my parents, I knew that no matter how much they paid me back, the emotional debt would take a lot longer to clear. I walked out of the meeting with a sense of clarity. The path forward was mine to decide. My future was mine to shape. And no matter what, I wouldn't let anyone take that away from me again.